All right, hello everyone. Thank you, Brand Innovators, for having us. It's been a great 2 days of content, saving one of the best for almost last. I'm super excited to be here with Natalie Pappacoda from Coty, who covers both luxury brands as well as consumer brands. So you're not busy at all. You know, not a ton on your
Not
plate.
much to
Brief introduction, I am Nicole Muscatello, Regional Vice President of Sales at Undertone. We sit at the intersection of creative and data to create memorable experiences for brands across all screens and devices. So not here to hear about me, here to hear about Natalie. So let's kick things off. Tell us a little bit about your role, Senior Director of Media, Coty.
Yeah, so I oversee media in the US, and as Nicole said, that's across consumer beauty as well as luxury. And those two are very different in the way that we approach them. But of course, we have many, many great brands within our portfolio, everything from CoverGirl to Gucci. So lots to think about during a typical day for me.
Of course. And so before you got to Coty, you spent a little bit of time in the agency world at Dentsu.
More
and
than a little bit.
Yeah.
More than a little bit.
Exactly. Tell us
Don't want to age myself.
Right,
More than
a little bit of time. Tell us a little bit about how your experience there has helped shape your role today.
Yeah, I think having that agency experience and then coming over to the brand side, this is my first brand side role, and I've been at Coty for a bit over a year and a half, has been really valuable. I think, partnering very closely with media agencies, I know where they're coming from. I have, a very deep understanding of their job, their challenges, their struggles, and, what we're asking of them. I understand what they have to do to meet my requests or our requests as an organization. So I try to be a very understanding client. I try to, give the information that maybe I wish I would have had when I was in their seat so that they can answer questions appropriately, give them more background than maybe I would have had from some of my clients in the past. So I really try to be a partner and be respectful of, the work that they have to do because we do ask a lot of that.
I'm sure they appreciate that. So diving in, one of the hot topics that we've talked a lot about in the past 2 days is connected TV. So traditionally, Coty has been, in the past, Coty has been a very heavy linear TV buyer, spending millions and millions each year, but has started to make that shift into connected TV. So tell us a little bit about that strategy behind that shift.
Yeah, we definitely have shifted a good percent of our money into connected TV. For us, our main player in linear TV at this point is CoverGirl, mass brand, really driving that reach across, pretty much trying to reach every woman. So linear TV still works really well for us. We still see great ROI from linear TV, and it's very important for that business. But of course, as we all know, we're following where the consumer is. We see that trend away from linear TV with cord cutters, et cetera, and just the inventory available within linear TV continues to diminish. So obviously, we have to fill that gap somewhere, and connected TV is the place to do that. And that is where the younger end of our consumers are, as well as the older end of the consumers at this point as well. So we're definitely very focused on connected TV as really a key part of our strategy.
Awesome. So how do the TV upfronts now look different for you guys, knowing that you've shifted most of the strategy into connected TV?
Yeah, for the upfronts, I think being nimble there really helps us. So having that ability to go in and negotiate a linear plus connected TV package with networks allows us much more efficiency and gives us a better, leg to stand on within those negotiations. So it's been very helpful for us to be able to work very closely with Zenith to figure out where we should be spending, kind of what that balance is between linear and connected, and kind of build that strategy. And within the upfront, the networks really want to sell us that inventory. There is plenty to be sold there, so it definitely helps that we are nimble and that we're willing to, figure out what those packages are.
And when you talk about that balance, I assume that applies to your brands as well. So something like a CoverGirl, you may be buying that differently than how you're buying Gucci. Tell us a little bit
Exactly.
about that.
Yeah, so we definitely also want to make sure that we're looking at the networks and who are their viewers and what the premiumness of the content is. So for someone like CoverGirl, we definitely have a very broad reach and we're looking to reach every woman, as I said. So we're very happy to play on platforms like, let's use Pluto TV as an example. We're very happy to be there. It's efficient for us. It helps within our mix, but we're of course also on Prime with NBC, et cetera. For someone like Gucci, we will tend to, focus more in on an HBO Max or a place where the content is more premium or where you would have, that buyer that we're looking for a Gucci. So we're definitely very focused on making sure that we're choiceful in our mix with linear as well as connected.
And how are you measuring your successes right now in CTV?
So we rely on media mix modeling where we can. So definitely making sure that we are tracking. We see still strong ROI for linear TV, and we still see strong ROI for connected TV as well. So we're managing that and making sure that we're looking at our mix and that we are keeping those ROIs as positive and strong as possible. So that's really one main way. Of course, we're also just looking at point of diminishing return, all of the kind of classic media planning principles to make sure that the mix is right.
Awesome. And as you've made this, strategy shift, what are some of the key learning experiences you've taken away?
Yeah, I think as I was saying earlier, just being nimble and kind of making sure that we are open to trying new things has definitely been an area that's been helpful for us. We have done the QR codes on connected TV. We're testing that out. I think, one thing that we think about is just it's great to test that out, but also the consumer behavior also needs to be there. So while we as marketers think that that's amazing and you can, track on connected TV and, track it as essentially a click through as what we're used to within digital marketing, doesn't necessarily mean that the consumer is quite there yet. So we do need to test and learn and just kind of see what happens and just make sure that we're also following, consumer behavior in these areas as well.
Absolutely. On the topic of attention, I know we've talked a lot about that as well today.
Mhm.
Is that something you're looking at in CTV?
Yeah, absolutely. So moving into this coming fiscal for us, we are definitely going to start looking at attention as a metric. I've heard that that's been a key topic and a hot topic over the past 2 days, and that's something that we're definitely looking at as well. And that would be across linear, connected, and within digital as a whole. So just OLV, et cetera. Something that we're going to quickly begin testing out to help us optimize and make sure that we're in the right places.
And how much does the creative play into, driving stronger attention and driving those metrics?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're trying to figure out. So it's going to help us give another aspect to understanding the strength of our creative. So we do a lot of pre-testing. We make sure that we know we have strong creative, and I think it's very easy for marketers these days to build strong television creative. Doesn't always mean that those creatives will work well, and we know that those creatives don't necessarily work well within digital. So iterating and making sure that we're testing and that we are recutting creative for digital and testing, doing a lot of A/B testing to make sure that that's going to perform well for us.
Awesome. All right, shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about audience. I know multicultural audiences, specifically Hispanic audiences, are very important to Coty. One of our panelists earlier says that brands have a general concern on getting the message wrong and being really authentic in this space. So, how are you guys tackling this?
Yeah, for us within beauty, Hispanic and USH audience is super important. We know that they over-index for both cosmetics and fragrance. So, the whole of our business, that consumer is really over-indexing there. So we do make sure, we cover the basics. We make sure that we have creative in language so that we can speak to that consumer in, their native tongue. But we also look for, other ways to reach them. So targeting mechanisms and making sure that not just our video creative, but any other digital creative we have is also translated. And then we look to talent as well. So anything from micro influencers or more niche influencers who are US Hispanic that can speak to, their peers and speak to them in a very authentic way. And then talent like America Ferrera for CoverGirl Skin is another one where we make sure that we are kind of bridging that gap between the general market and the Hispanic audience as well. And then we also look to build custom content programs. So go right to the experts. We have a program live right now with Telemundo where we're using their on-air talent to create custom content segments for us. So those are, the faces that that audience really knows and resonates with. They see them on a day-to-day basis on that network. So having them speak about our products is, as authentic as we can be.
That's awesome. What ways are you measuring these programs and ensuring that using this type of talent and these experts in the space is working?
Yeah, we will definitely look at, classic media KPIs and metrics to see how these particular, whether it's targeting or it's content programs, how they perform against our more general market content and placements. We generally do see that they outperform in terms of benchmarks and KPIs. So we do see that, it is resonating. For many of our brands, we're also able to have sales tracking in general within Hispanic. So we know kind of what we're driving there, and we're watching that to see if we can continue to increase that penetration.
Awesome. And what unique ways are you working with your partners? You mentioned Telemundo as one where you're able to find talent to reach these audiences in more authentic ways than others.
Yeah, I think that's a great example for us is using those partners and using their expertise. I think what we've learned is that it's really important to lean on those experts and to take advice and to think differently and not be afraid to try new things. What we'll see is that the way that you might speak to a general market audience and what you think is going to work is not necessarily the right tactic. So we try to be very open and listen to those experts who know what works and know how to speak to that audience, and then, kind of go with that so that we are being as authentic as possible.
Awesome. Touching into social, since I know a lot of these kind of talent activations do sometimes live in these worlds, one big emerging platform that I know you've seen a lot of success with is TikTok. TikTok made me buy it. I don't want to tell you how many things are in my closets right now because of this. So, how have you capitalized on some of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's a very, very real trend. So something that we can testify it works, and we've taken advantage of that absolutely. What's interesting about TikTok is the organic nature of it. So you can have just a very unexpected moment where a creator talks about your brand and you have nothing to do with it. It blows up, it goes viral, and it, leads to incredible sales lift. So we've had multiple instances of that within the organization where we've seen that happen. And of course, it's really hard to replicate that. So it's not easy to build a strategy where you necessarily can make that happen. But what we try to do is, watch out for those opportunities and those moments and amplify and boost them the best that we can. So make the most of it when it happens, because those moments are pretty magical, but they definitely don't happen every day. But then also, look for what are the elements that potentially made that moment happen, and where can we use paid, or where can we partner with creators to take some of that feedback or take some of those learnings so that maybe we can create a little bit of that ourselves as well. So we want to always learn from what we see from an organic perspective and utilize that.
And these magic moments have led to finding new audiences. So you were telling about a Simply Ageless case foundation, I would say, trend that went viral on TikTok that has, broadened the doors for your brand to speak to a whole new audience. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for us, Simply Ageless is a product that is generally targeted to a woman who's starting to think about wrinkles, getting into that anti-aging space. Within TikTok, a creator was talking about how the product was a great dupe for a Kat Von D product and had nothing to do with anti-aging, just great coverage, great product, from a makeup perspective. And that really went viral on the platform, and that caused For us, we use Micmac to drive to sale, and that caused over 5x add to cart rate. And from a sales perspective, up to 700% increase in sales within the few week period after that moment happened for us. So definitely, as we were saying earlier, it is very real. We've seen this happen. And then, what we've learned from that is on TikTok, any product can kind of blow up. That's one thing. But also, it's not necessarily the audience that you would have thought is the audience for that product. So we would generally target 35 plus for Simply Ageless, but now on TikTok, we definitely are targeting younger because we had that moment. We know that, the engagement is there and that audience is familiar with that product for something else other than the anti-aging aspect of it. So we target younger, and I think it's led us to just be a little bit more open to potentially who our targets could be for specific products.
Yeah, I was going to say, now this has kind of widened the doors of who your audience is. Have you taken these same learnings and applied it to other brands in your portfolio, or is it kind of siloed to what's testing and going viral on social?
I think, overall, we love to share learnings within Coty across the portfolio and make sure that we're all learning from each other and all the brands are learning from each other. So we play a lot within luxury on TikTok as well. We've done a few hashtag challenges and we have lots of learnings there. Some things work better than others, but we've really had great success there. So we're always trying to iterate. We're always trying to learn and share and take those learnings and apply them across the board.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, on this topic of kind of reactive marketing and social, is this a long-term strategy? How do you do it right if you're doing it at all?
Yeah, I think it is a long-term strategy. I think every marketer knows that to react really quickly to trends on a platform like TikTok takes a lot of internal coordination. It's a lot of teams that need to be involved in that, everyone from media to marketing, creative, et cetera. So it's challenging. It's something that we are working on internally to make sure that we're set up to be even more reactive. I would say right now, I mean, what's great about beauty on TikTok is that there are very long-standing trends. So we don't have to react to a trend that happens today, but no one will be talking about or reacting to 3 days from now because we have derm talk, we have ASMR, we have just makeup based trends, and it's so huge on the platform that we can think about those trends and work with creators and have the right content to speak to that audience within those particular trends who have a longer tail or a longer shelf life versus just trying to pick up on whatever the trend of the day is or whatever's blown up on TikTok and then react to it the next day, which maybe is not even relevant to our category.
Mhm. And so, building these more long-term relationships, you were telling me a little bit about the Perfect as I Am challenge, and how that was able to kind of build a little bit more brand awareness and brand loyalty. Tell me a little
Yeah,
bit
I
about
think it's also about like we have great brands that have moments of their own. So if you look at Adam Driver and the Burberry Hero creative that was everywhere and was talked about by everyone, we don't necessarily have to jump on another trend. We can also be the trend, or we can also have a moment that stands on its own. So we definitely look to create that whenever we can. Um, and then, we can do things like use hashtag challenges to create a trend or a moment in and of itself. So Perfect as I Am with the Marc Jacobs Perfect fragrance had over 80 billion views on the platform. So very successful for us and was the number one fragrance that year. So obviously, we have that ability to do that if you are very strategic and if you set it up and you have the right content and the right concept, which is super important.
That's impressive. So it's a TikTok is a new space. I know a lot of marketers are still playing within the traditional social channels. What would be your advice on breaking in there and really forming a strategy around this new platform?
I would say it's really all about, I'm sure as everyone has said over the past 2 days, test and learn, test and learn, test and learn, try new things, make sure you are tracking what's happening. Like we have bi-weekly updates that go out within the company to talk about all of the trends on the platform so that we're all really aware of what's happening. And then, we take that and we use that to test and learn. So it's about being present. It's about also being active on the platform as personally make sure that you're there, that you know what's going on, you understand how it works, and then you're better able to strategize and understand, how to get your brand into the conversation.
So, on the topic of test and learn, COVID obviously threw a huge curveball to the beauty space, and I'm sure you guys have come out of it so much stronger. So, how are you now looking at those test budgets versus those core budgets, maybe differently than you did in the past?
Yeah, I think we try to be choiceful in where we test. We do try to have a roadmap, so we definitely want to know exactly what we're trying to test, and make sure that we are, we have so many great brands and we have so much opportunity to do that, that we'll make sure that we're picking the right places for that. So having presence on Twitch for CK Defy was one way to get into that space and test that out, where it's relevant and where the target is correct for the brand. So we're always trying to make sure that we have these areas that we're interested in. Everyone does, where we want to see how we can fit in there, but we're very choiceful about which brands we go into each individual platform and test with.
What platforms are you most excited about this year?
Um, that's a good question. I think gaming is super interesting. We definitely talk about it a lot internally and trying to figure out how to play in that space. For me, I personally do like to game. I don't know if I should be announcing that to everyone, if I should be embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed. I do like to game. So for me, it's very interesting about how that's continuing to evolve and how we can reach females within that platform as well, I think is an exciting area for me.
Awesome. And then working with your agency, what are some of the ways that you're vetting the partners that you're working with for all these different new test environments or emerging platforms, and building this really strong media mix?
Yeah, I think we definitely rely very heavily on our agency to help us understand the value of new platforms and what's emerging in the marketplace. But as a media team, we're also very active. We do make sure that we are taking meetings, that we know, what's happening, and and we stay, very current. So we try to make sure that we're also challenging our agency. When we see something new, we'll ask them for a POV, and then also, of course, they're bringing us POVs as well all the time. So it's really a collaboration. And then, we work to see where it could make sense or maybe why it doesn't make sense, but definitely in partnership.
Awesome. And what are some of the things and trends you're seeing in the beauty space that you're looking out for over the next couple of months as you continue kind of evolving your media mix?
I think, as we talked about, we definitely very TikTok focused. It's just an undeniable place where we need to get it right and where we need to be. So I think it's not necessarily emerging. I think it's already there, but it's something that changes so quickly, and there's always something new to think about. There's always new. They release new placements and products pretty much once a week, it seems, at this point. So it's really a lot to keep up with.
Awesome. I think we're right about question time, if anyone has any.
I was just curious, you mentioned with TikTok, something goes viral, especially with supply chain issues. Did you ever have that situation like Marc Jacobs where something just like took off and then all of a sudden you were sold out?
We do sometimes have some supply chain issues, as everyone does at this point, but we do manage that. And if we're seeing that happening, we would pull back on paid spending just to, not spend money on something that the consumer's not able to get. So yes, it happens.
Is that something like you guys work ahead of time, like with the teams
Yeah, it's hard. We can't predict when something's going to go viral like that, so we can't really prepare for that in advance. But we do keep an eye on it as it's happening.
Any other questions? Somebody? Anyone? Kim?
Hi,
Hi.
Natalie. Kim Ryder from Samsung Ads. Can you talk a little bit about, I mean, you guys obviously collect a lot of data and you understand, who's using your products and the differences between those customers for the different brands.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about just trends that you're seeing that are different than, even like a couple of years ago? I'm not even necessarily talking about COVID or pre-COVID, but just,
That's an interesting one. I think, as we were saying earlier, there is more pressure to be reactive right now and to kind of um, make sure that we are reacting to anything that might happen. So as I was saying earlier, when you're seeing now a 19-year-old buy a product that you never thought that they would be interested in, we just have to be quicker with kind of tracking that and seeing that and understanding how we, refocus ourselves or how we change our tactics and how we change our targeting accordingly. So it's really just making sure that we know what's happening and that we have all of that data in our hands to be able to make those decisions in real time.
Following up on that a little bit, what tools do you have in place for brand suitability to sort of vet channels that have sort of influencer style hosts, whether it be podcast or TikTok, to know whether those fit with your brand values or they may not?
Um, I would say, as a media person, that's definitely more of a marketing challenge. So it's not something that I would personally be looking at. But, we have PR agencies that we work very closely with, and then also our media agency to help us understand and look at the creators and the influencers that we're working with to make sure that they are right for us. Plenty of tools to be able to, look at their following, look at how engaged their audiences are so that we're, choosing the right partners for the brands.
All right. We'll leave the awkward silence for not too much longer. Perfect. Thank you guys.